Good afternoon. This is the House Appropriations Committee. It is Monday, March 23rd, 2026. It is almost 1:15 in the afternoon, and we are here to get the final documents of the FY27 budget, all cleaned up by our Crackerjack Joint Fiscal Office staff, who worked hard over the weekend to get us something lovely. So they will, the plan is that JFO will go over all the parts and pieces we need to know, and then we will go off live for a couple of hours, and everybody's going to go and read things, and everybody will be around from JFO if we have questions. Is this the right number? I forgot this language, et cetera, et cetera. So, and then we'll come back. We'll give everybody about 2 hours. We'll see how we are at the end of this, and then we'll come back and we will answer any final questions and have our final vote, and then we will be done. And just so you know, for the rest of the week, I think it's going to be at 9:45 on Wednesday morning. We're going to have a caucus of the whole to talk about the budget. Usually what happens is not much, except me saying some things with the highlights. But we will also have our office hours down in the well of the House after judicial retention, which we did last year, and joint fiscal staff will be there with us. We'll have copies of things, and we had a lot of people coming up asking us individual questions. Mostly I said, Emily, James, Chris, can you answer this question? But that's, they'll be there to help answer those questions. So that is the plan, and then we'll be on the floor Thursday and Friday. Please look at the presentation order I gave you, and particularly make sure that your town, I have your town correct. I already have one. I found out that Lindenville is no more, so it's Linden. I was going off the website and it's not right. So anyway, take a look, make sure that that's all right. I'll give that to the speaker, so that as well as what everybody's budget categories are. So when people start asking questions when it's on the floor. And then on Friday, we will have the third reading, and then we'll go home.
And we should count on, what's the, do you have advice for us about the length of the budget presentation?
Did you read my email?
Oh, yeah, well.
She's been a little frazzled.
So, yes, so a few of you, and you're one of them, have longer presentations. So you all would get, most everybody should be around 4 minutes, maybe 5 minutes. Those of you that have some big meaty things, you know, maximum 7 minutes. And the other thing I said in there is that people typically speak 125 to 150 words a minute. And slower is probably better. And so when you think about wordage, your word count on as you're writing things up, take a look at that, and that will guide you into how long you're actually spending. So after you've written things down and you see that it's 11 minutes and you really only need to have 4, then you can fix things up. But we really want to hit the highlights. You don't need to hit every single thing in your budget areas. You know, if somebody has a question about insurance, I'm making this up, you know, they can come ask. But I think that they're probably not gonna, you know, they want to hear about all the other stuff. So that whatever the real highlights are, what you should focus on. Marty?
In the past, I have found it helpful to do just the highlights, figure out what you think is important to tell. And then at the side of the sheet, I put a bunch of other little notes regarding the topic that you think maybe somebody might ask you about. Then you have those notes already there, and you don't have to shuffle through all your papers or try to remember what it was, you know, that might be. So, you know, kind of my experience has been kind of have a general idea of what you want to see, the high points, but then also have available some other little notes that you can refer to if you need to about some specific things that people might ask about.
Yeah, that's good advice. Yeah. And you've done this a few times.
I have. Everybody has, I know that.
Yeah, well.
I just found that helpful. Might be.
Any other thoughts or tips, Mike?
Yes, thank you. Just a point of reference, last year, there was a little bit of a discrepancy about referencing page numbers. And initially, I had the page numbers from the bill, but I think it would be, I think the suggestion was from the floor to be referencing the page numbers in the calendar.
Right.
So
probably that would be the case. And I think this will be an addendum to the bill. So we'll use that addendum
Okay,
And if you want to get it printed in 8.5 by 11, so it's not the little booklet thing, Tony can do that for us. So would people like that? Because Autumn, we can make sure that happens for the addendum, so everybody will have the big copy.
That'll come out Wednesday? Notice calendar Wednesday or, pardon?
Yeah, I'm looking at Tom, he says yes. I'll go with Tom.
How's this? I think it's likely.
All right, we'll go with I think it's likely. Yeah,
The
great.
addendum would be posted tomorrow, I believe.
Oh,
For notice,
that's
for
good.
notice.
It sits on notice for 2 days or something.
Yeah,
Oh, for note, yeah. That's right, it'll be first reading, then it'll go on the notice calendar, and then it'll be.
good. I just wanted to have time to line up
Yes,
page numbers with whatever
as
the,
soon as we find it, we'll make sure everybody, yes, it won't be Wednesday night for Thursday or anything like that. So that's a good point, Mike. Thanks for remembering that happened last year. So we'll literally get everybody on the same page.
I have the easiest page to get on.
So I think that's it. If we think of other things, just bring them up as we go. But in the meantime, let's go over what everybody has from joint fiscal. So Grady, you're up first, I see.
thank you, Madam Chair. Grady Nixon, Joint Fiscal. So this is a brief document with just a couple of changes. So we'll go through those quickly. On page 1, you'll see some changes to the fund transfer section. Obviously, this does not include the entirety of that section, just the relevant tweaks. For context.
Speaker on.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
I used my Wizard of Oz voice. So you'll see for context here, the transfer to the CIT, Information Technology Internal Service Fund, that number didn't change. I'm just providing it here so you understand what's being referenced. You have the language directing interest earned on the Tech Mod Fund in FY 23, 24, and 25 to be transferred to the general fund. And then over the weekend, this was discussed with the chair, and Joint Fiscal included this here, which is just directive language to the Department of Finance and Management to report on the amount transferred to the general fund from the Tech Mod Fund in that subdivision D1. And then also on the fund balances of the Tech Mod Fund and the CIT fund after the transfers in this section were made at the end of FY or at the beginning of FY 27, I guess.
So we can keep an eye on what the balances are, not so surprised.
Right.
Great, so that should be easy there for them to do. Thanks, Grady.
Related to this on page 2, this is a new section E105.1, which would direct the Agency of Digital Services to work in consultation with the Department of Finance and Management to provide a written plan to the relevant standing committees on how to reduce the deficit in the CIT fund, including any recommended changes to revenues or expenditures from the fund. And the report would include information on revenues to and expenditures from the fund and the fund's balance at fiscal year closeout for the previous 10 fiscal years and estimates for fiscal year 2027 closeout.
Again, it sounds like a lot of time, but it's also sort of from the beginning, trying to understand what's happened. They should be able to get that, and then each year they just add 1 year, drop another year. Oh, your area, Marty.
They are, but they're good things that we need to do.
Yeah.
And on page 3 of this document, the committee saw language relating to the State Ethics Commission position on Friday. This is an update to it. So this would specify that of the general fund appropriation in B 136.1, which is in the amount of $150,000, up to $140,000 may be used by the commission to fund the staff attorney position being established in section E100. And then you'll see that the language now specifies that that staff attorney shall prioritize the commission's obligations in providing education, training, guidance, and advice to persons subject to the state code of ethics and the municipal code of ethics. And then in the subdivision 2, this just specifies that any remaining spending authority of that $150,000 appropriation may be used by the Ethics Commission to fund operating expenses, so equipment, computers, desks, what have you.
I had some phone calls over the weekend with folks from the Ethics Commission who needed more clarity. And you all saw some emails anyway, I think. So I chatted with Bill Stevens, the board member, to get something that. Anyway, I think it's more clarity, it's broader, and the attorney isn't gonna be sitting around, which is what I think they were so concerned about.
I'm not doing only this.
Right, exactly.
Someone chased me down in the parking lot. As I was leaving.
Yes. Yes.
I referred them to you.
Thanks. I knew who that was, yeah, yeah, and anyway, so what? So I had a few conversations over the weekend, and I think we're pretty straightened out at this point. I think they're not as used to how some of this stuff works as other people are, so I think, but making it clear is not a bad thing to do anytime, so I think that's a lot clearer for everybody. Okay,
And I did-
what?
also, I did get an email from someone. Quite an expensive email.
Yes,
That was supposed to.
that was Will, that's who I talked to, and somebody, anyway, it's all settled, I think we're in good shape.
And on page 4 of this document, the final edition would be using the same language that the House Committee added to the Budget Adjustment Act, which just specifies that the grand list and litigation assistance appropriation in B-139 is notwithstanding the pilot fund statute funded through the pilot fund. So for context, the miscellaneous tax bill took the statutory changes to allowable uses of the pilot fund that were originally in the GovRec budget. Those sections were removed from the budget because they're now being carried in that bill. This language would just guarantee that regardless of anything that happens with those statutory changes in the budget bill itself, that B-139 appropriation will be an allowable use of the pilot fund.
And that's the $70,000, the standard language, we're just transferring it to the pilot fund.
Mr. Chair, this speaks to the 3.41 million and B-139. So as Grady mentioned, this is belt and suspenders.
Right.
This is a global notwithstanding. Once the statutory changes are made in H993, you don't have to do this global notwithstanding.
Right. Great. Any questions on any of this? So that's what's new since Friday. Not bad, not too much. Thank you, Grady.
Great. So we'll incorporate those
Yeah.
drafts.
Yeah. Okay. Who is next? Emily and James.
We're doing this. Let's run do positions. We're gonna do positions first. Do we want to go through positions specifically? Or just have a sheet available?
I think we should have the sheet available.
Okay.
Yeah.
So for the record, Emily Byrne from the Joint Fiscal Office.
James Duffy, Joint Fiscal.
I think with your permission, you've got a lot of spreadsheets. We've gone through a lot of these spreadsheets already. I think we don't need to go through the reversions again or all that stuff. So we'll just have them over here if you want to grab them and cross-check them with the bill or do what you want with them. There are a few we'll walk through. We were talking about the position spreadsheet. I don't know if you want us to walk through positions again. Has anything changed since Friday?
We've made some adjustments to titles based on discussion on Friday. The spreadsheet will now reflect the positions that were moved. Yeah.
We'll go through this.
Will we have copies of the web report soon?
Yes, they're being
Yes.
printed.
Oh, they are, wonderful. Yeah, well, it's the type, it is. I just need one for Mike. You'll have to get it on the computer screen.
Thank you.
You all saw this on Friday, the changes that have been made since you last saw it. Under the Labor Relations Board, this position was previously shown as an exempt staff attorney. After hearing, I think, some feedback on that position, is now classified and is a mediator position as opposed to staff attorney.
Which line are we at here?
So that would be on page 2, and it would be the only exempt.
Oh, I,
Yeah, or sorry, it would be the only classified position. So.
which is page 1 and page 2 here.
It's at the very bottom.
Starts at B11, page 1.
Yeah, let's just take it from the top, actually. I'm sorry. So you can go back to page 1 at this direct view a little bit here. Labor Relations Board. That is 1, 2, 3, 4.
So which is?
Fourth or fifth item down.
One.
Page 1 is the one with classified positions at the top. It's the one you see behind.
B111
That's classified
Page
position.
one, okay.
Yep, yeah, starting at B111. So changes on this page since you last saw it on Friday. Labor Relations Board had previously been shown as an exempt staff attorney. It is now a classified mediator position. I believe the request from Labor Relations was that this be a mediator position title. And after doing some research into the proper classification for that position, it's now marked as classified.
Okay.
That's one change from Friday. Next is the ethics position. Actually, let's do Human Rights Commission position, which is a couple lines down.
Yeah.
This has been updated in the spreadsheet to be a staff attorney investigator. It had previously been labeled as a paralegal. This has also been moved to the pool per the committee's discussion on Friday.
Okay.
Then the only other changes to highlight here are the positions that you all had moved to the pool on Friday. You all had moved 7 positions to the pool. These included the Human Rights Commission staff attorney, 2 positions at the Secretary of State's office, the tax business analyst at B11, the Dale Disabilities Housing Coordinator, and 2 environmental engineers at ANR. We have reflected those changes in the spreadsheet. So those positions have been moved to the pool with the exception of the 2 Secretary of State positions, the RIM specialist and the business administrator. As Secretary of State's office positions are not pool positions, is my understanding from talking to Amy Pope at the JFO. So now 5 positions have been moved to the pool to reflect the committee's deliberations.
Is that the same with the treasurer for unclaimed property? That couldn't come from the pool either?
I don't know that. You all had not decided to move that position to the pool on Friday.
7 other ones
Right.
that were.
I am not clear about whether treasurer positions can be moved to the pool. If there's interest from the committee in moving 2 additional positions to the pool to make up for those Secretary of State's office ones, we can do a little more digging into proper classifications here.
But I wouldn't move more to the pool unless you know that there will be more positions in the pool, right? So there's a balance between, like, if you ask for them to come from the pool and the pool is empty, then the administration has to go off and find positions within the executive branch to put in the pool.
I think we had gotten the 7, from the probation and parole officers. And that's where we used the 7.
Correct.
That's true. There may not be actual positions. So maybe we'll just leave it where it is then. Okay.
And just, this does not reflect limited service positions that are being converted to permanent.
Page 2.
No, and we did not make any changes to the decisions. The committee didn't make any changes to the limited service conversions on Friday. So these are as you saw them on Friday.
Where are the VHIP positions that were converted from limited service to base?
Were there positions?
Yeah.
Just the money.
It's 2 positions that are in the
Well, if the governor was doing the 4 million, the base, shouldn't they have put the positions in the base too?
they are in the base. James, you and I can,
I'm not familiar with any VHIP language in the GovRec pertaining to position creation. There is the 4 million being moved to base, but I'm not recalling language in the GovRec language authorizing positions for VHIP. But we will touch base.
okay,
That's why we'll have a break to go over everything.
that's exactly that.
Okay, Tom, did you have something too?
Well, Emily, you phrased something like there's X number of positions in the pool. And the pool, like we also had a discussion last week about how we, the General Assembly, can create positions. And you just implied that there's no positions. I'm just getting a little confused here based on if we said that we needed to create a new position because there's no positions left in the pool, which are positions that aren't currently being filled, that may not be filled, or that are just there because they haven't been filled for some time. What am I missing in between what you stated and the conversation that we had last week?
Sure. So the presumption in the governor's budget was that there will be positions in the pool, right? Because they created a whole bunch of positions using the pool rather than asking the General Assembly to establish new positions. So when those positions sort of shifted, you all said, okay, so we know the governor has come out and said there will be a certain number of positions in the pool, so we might as well utilize those positions rather than create new positions. But then the total number of positions you're requesting to create is higher than the governor signaled in terms of positions in the pool. So you got to use the pool and create some over and above. Does that make sense?
Right, but the way that you had stated just a couple minutes ago is that there was a limit to the new positions.
There's a limit to the new that you can create from the pool.
Okay, but we could, that's fine. So we're using up the pool positions or we're assigning, there's no limit on who we assigned. There's just a position.
Yeah.
And then it doesn't matter if it's going to HRC or if it's going to GHD. Right? Okay,
I think, yeah, what you're sort of directing is like, to the extent there's positions in the pool, use those and then over and above create positions. I think there have been in the past, I'm trying to remember, there were some budgets in the past where I recall the General Assembly saying, create these 5 positions, but don't establish new positions, get them from the pool. So then what the executive branch has to do is then go out and find those positions to create the new ones, right? So that's the tension. Hopefully that makes sense.
Okay, yeah, no, that's fine. It was just a little.
Sure.
It took me a little journey to get there. Thank you.
I have it on good authority.
It is a journey.
1 second, Lynn. Because, hi, Adam, he's watching. VHIP they didn't ask for VHIP positions.
Just as, I was just confused because it did say in the ups and downs, it says VHIP staffing new base at SFY 2027, 240.
Yeah.
Okay. So I just,
So that's what I got from finance and management. That asked for VHIP positions. So that's why they're not showing up on here.
But they asked,
but
they
they
asked
did
to
ask, I
change it
think,
because they
from
didn't
limited
want.
service to permanent because they wanted to
Right.
make sure that it was, they could hold on to the people who've been administering the
Okay, so
program.
then they should be on here somewhere. So maybe.
And I've just sent
We need to-
you to, just the ups and downs that I.
Positions already exist, just change.
Exactly.
Right, but a lot of these are converted from limited service to, and the governor did that in his budget on this page 2 of his positions, but these are not on that. So that's the question I think we're asking is why aren't they on here? So I'm sure I'll hear from Adam.
It's not something that I caught when, we talked on Friday, but,
Okay. More to come, I can tell. Okay, Lynn.
Okay, you said there were 5 from the pool. I have on my notes from Friday that the B111 tax, that business analyst is from the pool. Is that still from the pool?
It's still in the pool if you look at your chart.
Right.
James put columns for pool and new. So the tax, Human Rights Commission, Dale, Tuit A&R are all from the pool. So do you want to continue with the positions?
That's it on positions. We can move on to base changes next.
Okay, let's see. Okay, so yes, hang on, this is from Adam, I'm just gonna give you the update, and yes, then John, I'm sorry. There are limited service positions already, they already are, we're fine for now, may revisit next year. So they are not being converted.
okay, I just was confused by why they were left in the ups and downs that way, but that's all right. I will.
That's what I'm getting.
Yep.
VHIP is limited service.
They are already limited service positions, right?
That was my question.
Yeah, so we don't-
Box is checked.
So there's no new position, they're gonna stay the way they are for the next year in the budget.
That was my.
Okay, was that your question,
It
John?
was, yep.
Okay. Done with positions for the moment? Okay, next spreadsheet, thank you.
This one should look familiar. So I walked through every single line on Friday. Don't know that you need me to do that again. But we have highlighted in green the things that have changed. So we did find a little bit of money on Friday, or not on Friday, sometime between Friday and today. Found a little bit of money.
You're gonna need one more.
Yeah. Except one.
Not bad.
Is there an extra one?
I got a bunch.
Does somebody have an extra one?
Here you
Oh,
go.
there's one on Mike's desk, that's why.
Well, Mike should have one.
Yeah, he's not here.
No.
We should.
We need one tomorrow.
Yeah, someone that way.
I've got, well, yes, we need one down here because Tiff gave me hers and she needs one.
I only counted 5 because I didn't think you'd leave one behind.
Okay.
Okay, anyway, so there were 2 places that we discovered some money. The first one is highlighted on row 9. We can give Chris credit for this one. So the, in those changes, shifting the OPEB consulting expenses over to VPIC, there was, the treasurer's office utilized general fund to do that, $105,000 of general fund. And the, in H 567, you're gonna shift those costs over to the corpus of the fund, basically. So VPIC will utilize the fund to help pay for those contracts on the investment. So that frees up 105 general fund in the treasurer's office. And then the,
And this is in base.
this is base, yep. And then the other place that we found money, which we'll touch on when we get to that, but for the rate increases at the Agency of Human Services, most of the rate increases are paid for using global commitment match. But there are 2 very small amounts. One's $34,000 and one's $54,000. When we were double checking the spreadsheet and cross-referencing anything, we realized that those general fund only costs were being budgeted twice.
That's
So
line 32.
that's mostly on line 32, yes. So that number is a little less. And we've put those general fund only expenses in their correct, where they show up in the AHS departments. The general fund only ones will show up where, I think it's in mental health and in Dale. So those 2 small changes, so it was a double count of about a little more than $80,000, but 80,000, so you'll see when we get to the one-time sheet, on the bottom line, there's $180,000, which is the combination of those 2 things. So real quick, so highlighted in green, I just talked about on row 9, that's the VPIC expense. On row 23, now we've got on here the net neutral move of the funding from the Center for Crime Victim Services to the Department for Children and Families for the supervised visitation. So it's on line 23, and then the opposite transaction is on line 45. On line 32 is the change for the DA, SSA, and home and community-based rates. This is the match for global commitment. And then on line 42 is where you see it's about $34,000 that goes to the Department of Mental Health. It's just a general fund expense. And then the other one of those is on the page, unfortunately, on line 51. It's another, a little more than $50,000 for general fund only human community-based rates. And then, sorry to flip back to the other page, on line 44, 47, and 48. We've put in the, as part of the housing bill, there H 938. There were some changes to the base appropriations associated with the housing program. So these 3 lines add up to 0, but this puts them in the right appropriations, or adjust the appropriations.
Is this,
According to that bill.
assuming Teresa's amendment or the bill is, it's with Teresa's amendment?
It's okay, but it's with both, the bill and because Teresa's amendment just.
Yeah,
Changed
but
the
it's-
numbers, yeah.
The right stuff, not that we have to do it again after the amendment. So, okay, perfect. I'm sure this was a big challenge, so thank you all for, no, well, I'm looking at you for fitting this all in, figuring out where it all goes.
And then the last number change, and this was just moving from the Agency of Human Services to the Green Mountain Care Board on line 56, the funding for the healthcare advocate. So the general fund will sit with the Green Mountain Care Board. as part of how they bill back for that. And then there's transactions with the Agency of Human Services out of Global Commitment associated with it. But the general fund initially goes to the Green Mountain Care Board. So that's just no change in the funding. So after all of that, everything else stays the same. So balance the funding. So after that, your total spending, appropriations, transfers, and money to the reserves is 2.6 billion. After we account for, what is base revenue, that leaves $27.26 million of base revenue that's utilized to cover one-time appropriations. Slightly less than the government.
We should do some things for one time.
And then. Any more questions on the base budget stuff?
Through the
Wait for
revenue changes. Some of that was from the miscellaneous tax bill.
Yep.
The down payment assistance tax credit. Expansion of downtown and village tax credit. And the change, the decoupling and the change in the meals and rooms with the purchase and use, all those flip-floppy things for us. Looks familiar. Is there another one of those too?
This is the same.
Is that, oh, that is the same.
It's just the other page.
Oh, you haven't passed out anything yet.
No.
No, I'm waiting for you to say. Yeah, good, okay.
This is on the internet?
Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
I got a call this morning about the governor rec, which is off, and we didn't hear anything about it, but I just want to share that.
Okay.
Just so-
Okay. Oh, I have an extra one.
Didn't count them this time. Okay, so this is the base sheet. This should also look familiar. In terms of changes on this one, the only thing that, one times. The only thing that changes on this one-time sheet is the amount that's carried forward from the base sheet. So when all is said and done, none of these one-time appropriations are any different from what we looked at on Friday. There is the $180,000 left on the bottom line that we found over the weekend.
And I talked to some, but not all of the committee members about using 50,000 for the local civic journalism that we actually kind of forgot about. We got the radio, but forgot the civic journalism piece. We got, and the TV, but we forgot that piece. And since there is money, I'd like to suggest that we use 50,000 one time for that.
And that's a match.
That's a match, so
It gets a match.
that's the community
Yeah,
funding,
yeah.
right, so that turns into 100,000. So are people okay with that?
And taking the
So we-
full 50, we're not gonna take it away from them.
That's correct. So the 180 becomes
130.
130. So we're leaving a little for dissent. Okay, so you guys will capture that however
It will, yeah,
it happened.
it will show up as a one-time appropriation.
Correct. One time.
It will be on a one-time sheet in B 1100 M3 is where it's gonna land. We had to guess. Great.
Not seeing any other questions about the one times, if otherwise it didn't change from Friday.
Is it appropriate to tell you the phone call I got?
Yes, I think this is, yeah,
So I got a phone call from the chair of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, and
Okay.
which is in the AOA, so it's a little bit different. I
yeah,
didn't focus on it, but AOA is not me.
right,
They were budgeted for 900,000. The administration had said that because this was a shorter year for them, but the chair called me this morning and said, we need the 1.1 that we've been getting. I told her there's a little that we can do about it. I just wanted to make it public that,
Okay.
that their work will finish this year. They will sunset on time.
Right,
But the 1.1 is for salaries and, for finishing up their work
okay,
in total. So if something comes available either here or in the Senate, I told them that it's unlikely that we get anything here.
yeah,
But to chase it in the Senate.
okay, so that they're short 200,000 is
Yeah.
what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay, so we should definitely let the Senate know about that.
Yeah, and that is, it was just something that, they've been in the midst of finishing all of their public, they just didn't,
Right,
they
didn't
didn't
come
notice it.
across it yet. Okay. Okay, so we'll discuss that with the Senate.
There's one, I forgot to highlight it. There's one change. On line 21, the legal aid immigration attorney.
Yeah.
We had that at the AG's office on Friday. And talking with the AG's office, thought it was more appropriate to put it in AHS, which has the contracts and stuff with legal aid. So
Great, that's fine. In fact, Todd had texted me as we were finishing up, and I said, just go talk to you guys and figure out whatever they want to do.
he and I connected over the weekend.
Yeah, good,
Figured it out, but I think that's the only one.
okay. And so when we see things like shelter development, temporary emergency housing, grants to municipalities, cold weather shelters, all those are all related to 938.
Correct. Yes, we could put that in the notes.
Probably that would be good, because I know
Box
that,
around it.
that
So
other House members are gonna wanna know, where do I find the stuff from 938? So if we can say all of those are labeled, that would be terrific.
Just on line 13, there's just a little typo, emergency.
Emergency.
Oh, man.
Who's that guy with the Big Panther? Emergency. I don't know.
Fix that.
Puzo? Yes, it's right, Puzo. Thank you.
All right. With that,
Okay,
I am going to, unless you want me to, we have the direct apps and reversion sheet, which I can go through, but they haven't changed since Friday. So we can just have them available if people want them. If that works. They're online as well.
okay.
We also have, you get a quick sheet that's got all the other transfers that are in the bill. Brady has walked through the language.
Why don't we take a look at that?
If you want to do a quick look, sure.
Yeah.
A lot of these are standard. Transfers that happen. And they're all in the D101 section. This is where the transfers and reversions usually happen. I'll just quickly run through them if that works.
Yeah, thanks.
So in D101A2A and B is where you have transfers from the transportation fund to the general obligation debt service fund. So that's the debt service fund. And then transfers to the downtown transportation and related capital infrastructure improvements program. That's a typical transfer. From the education fund to the tax computer modernization fund, that's the education fund's share of the transfer to that fund annually. From the clean water fund, so the clean water fund, there's the clean water fund, and then there's the agricultural water quality special fund. So there's a transfer associated with the spending that the Agency of Agriculture will do from the clean water fund. And then there's the Lakes in Crisis Response Program Special Fund that annually gets a transfer from the clean water fund.
And I think that went up this year. When it originally started years ago, it was 50,000. And then at some point, I think it went to 100. And this might be the first year it's 120. I don't
that's
remember.
new.
Yeah, Wayne, do you know? Dear world. I mean,
I don't know about that.
I think it went up by 200
course, they
20,000. I mean, it's not.
did
it's not
work
big.
on, they did an alum treatment on Lake Carmike, but that came out
Yeah.
of a different fund, I think.
Yeah,
That would be,
they're still the only lake in crisis.
Right.
that
Right.
would be good. It's,
Right. I just didn't know if you were following it since it
No.
was your neck of the woods. Okay, so that's fine.
At
Yep.
the transfer from the clean water fund for the bottle bill doesn't start yet, correct?
Correct. Doesn't start until 2029.
It might be fiscal year 29.
I
Or
think.
31.
29, 30, 31, 32, so
Okay.
it's a bit out.
might stop drinking by then, right?
Okay, so then on line 11, we have, I think this is just cleaning up some fun stuff from the AG's fees and reimbursement court order special fund, the miscellaneous fines and penalties special fund that's at the AG's office. And then on line 13, we have coming from the insurance reserve fund to the transportation fund. This is insurance funds to help pay for the garage repair, central garage, new.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Those are also in the bill.
That should look familiar. You have more spreadsheets?
I have two more, which we can go through, or you can look at them yourselves. I have one that has just a quick summary of general fund reserves.
Oh, that would probably be good for see.
Of where things are at when all is said and done. And then the last spreadsheet I have, which again, now is like real weedy. I'm happy to go through, but also it's the kind of thing that maybe a good thing to go through another day is just the general fund operating statement. But the big spreadsheets effectively are the general fund operating statement. This is just it all summarized. Or it's in balance.
I'd like, a couple of us would like to see that.
Sure. And it may be kind of the thing in April to like talk, I can come in and talk about what.
Yeah, I think that would be great, but I would love to get a little gander at it this afternoon.
Okay. So this is just a quick summary of the reserves. At the bottom, just tried to explain what each of them are. But at the end of 2025 and all of the reserves, so the 4 plus or minus reserves in the general fund or the stabilization reserve, which is the 5% of prior year appropriations. The human services caseload reserve, which is related to setting aside in case there are shortages in Medicaid and also to cover the Medicaid claims tail. The balance reserve, which is often referred to as the rainy day reserve, which this actually changed in statute last year. I think it's actually up to 10% of prior year appropriations, I believe. And then the 2753 reserve, which we are all familiar with, cover the 27th payroll and the 53rd week of Medicaid. Then the reason I said plus or minus is because in 2020, there's also just a column for other reserves that are established, which there weren't any in 2025, but in 2026, this is where the $60 million is from the year-end construct, where there was $30 million reserved for property tax relief and then another $30 million reserved for property tax relief and federal funds and any other issues that may arise.
And the 50 million is not part of this because we actually appropriated it to the agency administration for the board. So that's why it's not a reserve.
Thank you for that clarification, yeah.
So in 2025, total reserve in the general fund was 328.2 million. In FY 2026 is projected to be 389,000. No,
389 million.
189 million, thank you. I've been reading too many numbers. I forgot how to read numbers. Okay, and then in FY 27, there's some fun, we're gonna add to the stabilization reserve to true up against prior year appropriations. Add to the 2753rd reserve, so statutorily, annually, we add to that reserve every year until it is a year when we have to make one of those payments. And then in the second to last column, we see the $60 million going down to $30 million as the proposal to unreserve the $30 million set aside for property tax relief, and then will be transferred to the education fund.
And in that reserve column, is that where the yield bill, the amount that is reserving for next year's tax, will that end up showing here?
No, that's on the, I don't have a summary of the reserves in the ed fund or the transportation fund, but you would,
Specific, okay, got it.
Specifically, you'll see it on the
Okay.
education fund outlook.
yeah,
It would be on that, and you see the reserves at the bottom. And I think it was on the reserve outlook, projected outlook that Julia handed out on Friday or Thursday, whenever it was we talked about it.
at the end of FY 27, there'll be 375 million projected to be reserved. Subject to change as appropriate. Where they start to change is if you've changed the like appropriations to the Budget Adjustment Act, if they go up or down, or if there is contingent appropriation, it changes the amount of the appropriations in a given fiscal year, which then changes the reserve requirement. So you have to reserve against whatever changes in the BAA or at year end, depending on.
It's sort of math. And
Yes.
whatever we end up with in the final budget, the math works out to whatever this is, but. Correct.
Yeah, so in the fiscal year 2026, it is projected right now, but does that include the stuff that we did with contingencies, the 389.6? I mean, after what the BAA and the contingencies, so that included all that in the budget, and then that's what it comes out to. Projected.
So it's updated, yeah.
And we leave it projected until you finalize appropriate, like once the final budget bill is passed, because you can still change the 2026 appropriations until up until June 30, frankly, if you wanted to. So we leave it projected until the year closes and then it's official.
Thank you. Last question, when you don't have the ed fund or the transportation fund reserves here,
No, I don't.
are they important or something that, or they just don't change very much or?
They are equally important, I would say, for those funds. They, in looking at this now, we're going to add them for the next iteration
We
of
should be
this.
seeing them.
Yeah.
Just to see what they are.
Yeah, they are on the operating statements and the outlooks, for the ed fund and the transportation fund. They don't have the transportation fund only has a stabilization and a balance reserve, and then the education fund has a stabilization reserve, and then whatever other reserves are created by the General Assembly.
Questions? Wayne, you look like you have
Not on
some.
this topic, I'm gonna back up after you're done.
Okay, I think we're done with reserves, so you want to ask your question?
Because you're asking about the lake, the fund.
Oh, Lake Carmi, yeah.
Yeah, so what it is they have a fund that they provide grants. For Lake Carmine also now, H 113 placed Lake Memphremagog into the Lakes Crisis.
Oh, it did, okay.
So you got two lakes there and they can give out grants, a maximum of 50,000 a year. There's 35% match. The towns, whoever gets money has to match money. And they're using it for, or like they tried it on that aeration at Lake Carmine.
Oh, no, that was a
didn't
big
work.
disaster. I was in corrections when that came up.
I said it wasn't gonna work. Yeah. Tributary monitoring for phosphorus and of course, dealing with agricultural runoff. So
Runoff, right.
they use it for those purposes. And local, campers associations, whatever, will provide the match and do the grants. So that's what that's for, a small amount. Apparently they transferred some more into that
Yeah.
program, so they can do those grants.
I didn't think we had put enough Memphremagog on that.
So,
I didn't think that we had agreed as a legislature to include Memphremagog in that Lakes and Crisis.
well, said H 113, I don't know.
Well, it's been presented 2 or 3 times, but I don't think that's passed.
Said 2025, I don't know if it passed.
Oh, well,
Just a second,
I'll
check.
look it up.
I
Look
don't
it
think
up.
it passed.
What did I say, H 115?
113.
I think.
Last recorded action, read the first time in January of 25, sorry, January 28th of 25.
Mhm.
And it's still sitting in the Committee on
It hasn't
Environment.
passed yet, so they're trying to pass it.
It's not going to go anywhere because it's been sitting there for a year and a half in that committee, so.
This is nobody from that part of the country that likes the place, no?
That's where it is, so.
So it's all like.
Supposedly that Rep. Page led the charge on, which makes sense since he was in Newport. Okay, I think we've done that one as far as we're gonna go with that.
Great. I can,
Oh, the operating
bunch of
statement,
time, just
just
look at it now. Okay.
just quickly, because we're all here focused on spreadsheets, but we don't have to go through it in detail. Let's do that after in April.
Yeah.
Yes. Sorry for the small font.
That's okay.
So this is how we at JFO, and then it's similar to the education fund outlook. One for transportation also. But this is how we keep track of where sources and uses to the general fund. So at the top is where we have sources to the general fund. As the changes for the tax revenue and tax changes, the current law revenue comes from the revenue forecast, direct applications and reversions and other transfers. Numbers should look familiar. That other transfers is that tech mod transfer. So total sources to the general fund are the 2.7 million. And then we have ongoing appropriations, pay act, other bills, the one-time appropriations, and other bills that are one-time in nature. Give us a 2.5 million of uses, which is $189 million of sort of unallocated, from an accounting perspective, sort of the unallocated piece. So then that's where the transfers come in. So then we have transfers to the debt service fund, to the cash fund, the computer modernization fund, and those other funds. The major one of that, $104 million of that, is the education fund transfer this year. So the net transfers are 203 million. And then we have the money going to the stabilization reserve, the money going to the 2753rd reserve, and then the unreserving of the $30 million to the education fund. And so the net of all of those, and of course, all of this is rounded, but the unallocated operating surplus is the $180,000, which rounds up to the 0.2 that you see on the bottom line there. And then at the bottom is what's reserved in the general fund, which matches the sheet that I just walked you through.
I imagine. So we can walk through this in more detail. This is just like how they're reconciling, but it'd be good for us to all get a sense of how this works. And we can do that with the ed fund outlook too. Maybe just sort of go through them so everybody understands them in next month.
But the date at the top for the House, we talked about some changes we made. Shouldn't that be March?
It should be March, yeah. Oh, no, you know what that is? That refers to, it says, it's very small letters under fiscal year, it says forecast. That's the forecast that's used for that. So then, you know, it's the January 2026 adopted forecast.
For the current law revenue.
Yeah. And then when there's as we go along throughout the year, when there's a new forecast, that it will change to July, and then we'll know what the operating statement reads out of those changes. But that's what that January 26 refers to.
When is the next 2752?
What?
When is the next?
Soon.
Well, there's three different years, right? One is 27 and one is 50.
Yes, there'll be a 53rd Medicaid payment. I want to say next year. We'll look up, there's a report that Finance and Management does every year on how much you need to contribute and then when the next projected expense will be. But the 53rd payroll happens twice as frequently as the 27th Medicaid payment. But it's pretty soon, I think.
They're a little like.
Little footnote things. And those are my secret footnotes.
Your secret, okay.
I refer to like other spreadsheets so that we can track everything ourselves.
Very smart way to do it.
It does make it confusing for you all.
Yeah, well, it's like there's something secret code I was trying.
Yeah, there is a secret code.
A line or.
JFO secret code.
Yeah.
So we won't bring up this sheet today. We've got enough other spreadsheets, and then we have the web report, which we can leave there. We can give everybody take a copy, and that's online too, Dave. That would be posted.
Oh, no, thank you.
And then do we also have a package of language? Oh, look, there's Grady with a package of language. So our task is to read the language, read the web report, check it against what you have and what you think you're doing, and questions, corrections, comments. JFO staff will be hanging out here, I think.
And the only thing, so we are gonna go add the civic journalism thing.
Okay,
It won't be in any of the documents that you're reviewing,
right,
but it'll be
okay,
in whatever the.
all right. And then people are already asking me about, not in this room, but are asking me about highlight sheets. So I know you know that's what's next, right? So I'm sure you've been thinking about that in your spare time over the weekend. We just hand them all the spreadsheets. Here, any questions?
Send all those to your budget buddies.
Yeah, then we should be right into our budget buddies tomorrow, probably. So we'll talk about how all that's going. So.
Then I'm not gonna walk through this one. I'll leave this one up at the front too with the other ones. But this is just the sum. We did this last year when there were 100 million one-time appropriations, but it's got all the one-times. It has the ones that are out of the general fund and the ones that are not out of the general fund so that you.
Oh, perfect. That's a really helpful sheet as well.
Which will match the language, except for the civic journalism thing.
Okay.
So there'll be three things up front that you don't currently have: the web report, that summary one-time overview, and maybe the stacked language for you also.
Adam is saying the 53rd week of Medicaid payment is in FY 27.
FY 27?
I wonder if he means FY 28. We'll check it out because we didn't. I don't think that's in our budget or his budget. Well,
Have to unreserve and appropriate if it was this year.
yes. And you didn't see anything in their language that had unreserved and appropriate. So I bet he'll be checking that. I'm sure we'll hear. Okay, so committee, you have your assignment to look at things. If we came back at 3:45, so that gives you a little over an hour and a half. Does that feel like enough time? Well, why don't we check back here at 3:45? If people really feel they need more time, we'll go live, we'll go off live and come back.
That's before we get the language and the.
We have the languages, one's behind you and one's next to you.
Just take one for ourselves.
Take one for yourself. We're not gonna go over it here in public, because, yeah.
Is the report on these?
I can send you an email that has a.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah.
Okay. So, let's go off live and we'll come back